I used to think it would be a good idea to sell this. Plus, I just made this statement on television. For whatever reason, I thought it was funny that Jamie Dimon referred to it as a pet rock during Elizabeth Warren's testimony. I mean, come on. The level of haughtiness you're displaying is quite astounding, isn't it? No one is smarter than you, not even Ray Dalio, Jeff Yost, Abby Johnson, Paul Jones, Stan Druckmar, Mickey Milker, Pete Brigger, or any of the world's top investors. Elizabeth, you are far more intelligent than any of the world's top investors who like it. No need to like it. But please don't be so haughty as to claim it's worthless. I said as much. Several on-chain measurements show that Bitcoin's BTC upward trend has been resilient in the face of a recent price fall. Bitcoin hit a new all-time high of $74,000 earlier this month, but heavy selling pressure caused it to fall 10% from June's peak. Bitcoin had fallen below $66,000 by June 14th, a further decline of 1.26%. The bull market for Bitcoin is still going strong, according to a number of on-chain measures, even if the price dropped 5% in Q2 2024 as a result of heavy selling pressure when Bitcoin miners caved after the block reward halving in April. These measurements provide a more positive outlook, in defiance of the fears held by certain investors regarding the possible conclusion of the bull run. The Bitcoin price rainbow chart, which uses a logarithmic growth curve to assess the asset over the long run, is an important statistic. Based on this trend, it seems like now is a good time to buy in Bitcoin. Prospective price trajectories are predicted, and the present price levels are emphasized as an attractive investment opportunity. Indicators such as the Bitcoin price rainbow chart indicate favorable conditions for potential investors in the cryptocurrency, while on-chain measurements imply that the bullish trend is intact, even though selling pressures have fluctuated recently. Since that particular set of individuals recognized its value, I saw potential in it from the start, since I believe this was a groundbreaking concept. Because Satoshi anticipated the rise of populism, he had a brilliant concept that would go viral. Brexit was a boon for cryptocurrency. The second it occurred. Governments run by populists waste a lot of money. Their populist label comes from my having termed it. On top of that, a populist wave is sweeping the globe. When we were 15, we lost our North Star. We referred to it as globalization. Whether we were right or wrong, the globe had the belief in globalization. The collapse of globalization was precipitated by Brexit. Resourcing and a potential conflict with China are now being discussed. That wasn't there at all. So we've set the stage for Bitcoin to prosper economically and politically. For this reason, I brought up the idea of gold and silver as a means for tangible things to prosper. More than 300 million people around the world currently hold Bitcoin in high regard as a digital hard asset. The Democrats in Washington, D.C. last week showed signs of finally waking up. Even though I'm more of a Democrat than a Republican, I've gone down there a lot. However, I'm leaning towards radical centralism more these days. It seems that Democrats dislike crypto due to Elizabeth Warren's influence on financial decisions in the Biden administration. I also made it known that there are 65 million dog owners in the United States. The number of cryptocurrency owners is 85 million. The Democratic Party is currently in danger of being known as the dog-hating party. Canines are vermin that we despise. I was thinking, crypto can't be hated in a vacuum. Incidentally, Trump declared himself to be your crypto president on the very day that Biden hinted at vetoing this esoteric accounting rule. Additionally, the crypto community now considers it a purity test. Republicans are big fans of cryptocurrency, while Democrats aren't. You can't be considered a crypto enthusiast if you supported Trump in the election. Last Monday, the Democrats achieved a bipartisan vote in which 10 senators and, I can't remember exactly how many representatives crossed the floor. 21 members of Congress. Thus, crypto is being discussed, in particular Bitcoin, isn't it? Assume, for the sake of argument, that Bitcoin is a form of digital gold whose value increases in relation to its level of acceptance. It's because people believe it after hearing it explained to them. Then, practically speaking, Bitcoin is sold, not bought, isn't it? Orange pilling happens to you. There are many ways in which the world is terrifying. As a kid, I used to fantasize about being at the table with Spectre and all the villains in a James Bond movie. Whether it's Putin or Orban, it looks like today's international leaders. As a result, the political stability with which many of us were raised is no longer present. Plus, the economy is always changing. The US economy is strong in many respects, you know. Nearly all of our positions are filled. The robustness of the economy continues. To astound those who study macroeconomics, I think it's quite straightforward. We're spending 6.5% more than we're taxing, and our government isn't able to keep its trousers on. This follows another government's disastrous performance. Therefore, a lot of progress is being made when budget deficits are kept at 6.5%. Growth would be flat or negative, but at 6.5%, if the current budget deficit were 3%, just why does that matter? Just because the federal government is now spending about 26% of GDP. I worked for Ronald Reagan in the Office of Management and Budget in 1984, my first job outside of Gardner, and it was my first real job. I was a little more Republican once. When I was in school, I found out that the federal government can spend up to 20%. And they aim to levy a 20% tax. A 20% of GDP budget was the dividing line between Republicans and Democrats, therefore that's the takeaway from this speech. I thought Bill Clinton was the only president to ever have a budget deficit of 20%. 1999, partially due to his actions and partly due to pure chance that the tech bubble occurred, you make an effort, nevertheless, to maintain that proximity. You do remember 2015 and the emergence of populism in the United States? After Brexit, Trump came along. First, Trump, the first populist president in our lifetime, and then Biden, another populist president, raised spending in response to COVID, and then for no apparent reason at all. Government expenditure now accounts for almost 26% of GDP. The correct amount is 6% lower than that. The inflation can be attributed to 100% of the cause, along with 100% of the reasons why the majority of macro traders have been mistaken in their predictions of an impending economic slowdown. Government spending doesn't follow a seasonal pattern, therefore there's no slowdown. This is similar to China's 5-year plan when you consider our actions with the CHIPS Act, the Inflation Reduction Act, and Build Back Better. This is a substantial sum that will be spent over a period of 5 years. What matters is that it is being spent, regardless of the interest rate cycle. This machine gets it and then kicks it out again, so A, it keeps our economy afloat in general, but it does push out other investments, leading to market inefficiencies. We Americans find it quite frightening. Here, listen up. If you're here, someone will urge you to purchase stocks, silver, copper, and gold, and then you'll be in the appropriate funds and your assets' prices will rise along with the market. Daily stock prices rise. But the majority of Americans do not hold any physical assets such as gold, silver, or copper, do they? Just 12 years ago, the typical American home cost $190,000 today. It's $410,000, a huge difference if you're 26 years old and looking to buy a home. Please consider what I have just stated. You started working at Anthony's shop when you were 25 years old. His income hasn't doubled, and you're likely paying 20% more. However, both the house and the mortgage are far more expensive. So for those without assets, inflation and asset inflation are like a double whammy. The likelihood of President Biden vetoing this law remains high. Time will tell. Hopefully he won't. I believe it would be incredibly naive of him to do so. However, in politics, it's common for leaders to threaten to make the lawmakers they urge not to vote a fool if they do not veto the measure. My foundation rests on those. Oh my gosh, what the fuck is the correct course of action? This is not how DC operates, for crying out loud. Thus we shall observe. Much lobbying is going to take place, so we'll see. A new stablecoin bill is on the horizon. Regarding market structure, there is an additional bill. Pay close attention. I thought that crypto needed Republicans and Democrats to grasp it and help advance it, didn't it? This technology must not belong to just one group. The cryptocurrency business will suffer as a result of the protracted nature of these elections. With cryptography as its foundation, every technology should have broad support. Cryptography offers a bit of everything.